everyone. My guest today is a Forbes 30 under 30 healthcare entrepreneur known for expanding accessible ethical fertility care across India. As the CEO and co founder of RISAA IVF, he has been instrumental in expanding the organization into a multi city network of over 14 clinics. He runs an angel fund and network Neos Angels, where he has invested in over 30 startups. His philosophy of scale fast and rise early is the driving force behind the momentum he's brought to the healthcare industry in India. He also supports various organizations like IIRFT, Women Hopes, Earth Scientific, and Upkar Welfare Trust. Dr. Saarthak Bakshi. Hello, Sarthak. How are you?
And thank you, Ishita, for having me on your podcast. It's wonderful to speak to you. I mean, we've known each other for many, many years, but finally doing this is official podcast and coming onto your channel. It's always welcoming and it's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you, Sarthak, here. I've been very inspired by how you have actually grown not only RISA, but also the mark you have made in the Indian healthcare industry. The first thing that I wanted to know was that over the years, how have you seen people's attitudes towards specialized healthcare shift across India?
So, very truly speaking, I've seen there is a very big shift. I mean, there was a time when healthcare meant emergency. It was reactive healthcare, whereas in today's scenario, it's proactive healthcare. Not only in our industry, but people are way more aware and are knowledgeable enough that what is required. There are diagnostic centers which are giving packages all across the landscape so that you're aware about all your bodily parameters. Earlier, people would approach specialized centers like us after exhausting all local options. I am always saying, I've said this in multiple talks and podcasts, that getting a baby through us, was the last resort through an IVF center. Where first temples, and there were Baba, then there were a local GP practitioner, then a gynecologist, and then an IVF center. So we would fall on to the last resort rather than what today's scenario is. If you've been trying for say 1 year, if you're below 35 and are still not able to conceive, then people come to an IVF specialist direct. So that's how I believe the landscape have evolved, is where people are more informed, they research deeply, they compare outcomes, and they want clarity before committing. So with all of social media helping us out on there, so they were saying that the conversations have become open now. Couples are willing to discuss challenges, seek early consultation, understand scientific options. So this openness in general understanding, has significantly reduced the stigma around any disease, even for us, say parenthood or people who are not able to conceive. That stigma has reduced down. We are able to, cater to other people's needs way faster.
So, in fact, I do agree with you. The mindset, the perception of people has changed a lot in the past few years, especially in the past decade, I believe. And but one thing that I've seen is that healthcare choices often come with a mix of hope, hesitation, and research. So, as per you, what should a healthcare service provider focus on to create a sense of trust even before a patient meets their team?
So, trust is the biggest thing in healthcare, because outcomes are uncertain. In our industry, fertility, there is say a 50-60% chance of success, which means there is a 30-40 or 50% chance of failure also. Similarly, in any outcome, the doctor always assures you that they are doing the best and they would obviously want each and every patient to go home hale and hearty. But nobody can be a god, or nobody can decide the outcome uh, for anyone with 100% efficiency that nothing can go wrong. So, for each and every one of us in the healthcare industry, trust comes long before the first consultation. And how do we look at it? Is that it starts with transparency, clear communication, realistic success rates, and with all of this, whatever we are telling out publicly, whatever we are marketing publicly, whatever information we are putting it out there, we ensure that what we say publicly is delivered in private when a patient comes to us. Our core focus is to be very authentic and very ethical with the kind of treatment. So, and I believe that every patient, they would value honest counseling more than exaggerated claims. So there has to be a certain line of reality between this clinical outcomes that are actually real and the exaggerated claim which is done through marketing across social media, newspapers, TVs, whatever. So the focus has always been to building trust in a sensitive space. Like healthcare is very sensitive. The focus has always been like that.
Right. And I believe, consistency has a lot to do with that, across when you have multiple centers, then, it is, there has to be an umbrella consistency across all centers. And so I believe that scaling healthcare can be really delicate. And in your experience, how can, a healthcare service provider maintain consistency and compassion across all service centers?
So we have to, I mean, there is no easy way to say that, but systemizing empathy and, making protocols for consistency is never, and it cannot be done. I am 100% sure that when human values involved, so the difference between us or any product company is the product can be systemized and protocolized and is synonymous across multiple locations. But when it comes to human interaction, scientific data, in terms of what we are trying to do in a lab, create life or make babies in a petri dish or in a test tube, that can never be systemized or protocolized because there's a lot of empathy required on treating each and every patient. The realisticness of what the success rate could be differs for each and every patient across there. So when we are trying to tell that, that it's not like a McDonald's, you'll have the same burger, same taste everywhere. Each treatment is different for every patient, and we need to ensure that we are very realistic and authentic with each and all of them.
As RISAA expands to new locations, what signals tell you that a community is ready for the kind of care that you offer?
So we have always expanded in terms of finding a right partner at each and every location. Our doctors should be, they first of all, whatever doctor that we are partnering with or wherever location that we are looking for, it's never about the numbers, It's about when we ensure, we have centers in Bareilly, Pilibhit, Karnal, Nawa Shahar, they are tier 3 towns, not even tier 2. So when we are looking to enter, we enter as a community that can we maintain the same quality and standards what we offer in Delhi at these tier 3 locations. That means having manpower who has the same knowledge, having the same amount of doctors, embryologists, or having the same environment also can we create looking at what we have access to in a tier 1 city, can we get the same access and same things. So our emphasis has always been in building that community in that location rather than just thinking about can we do bigger numbers, and expansion is not numbers for us. It's about, as you said, creating protocols, giving strong training systems, and a culture of empathy across all our centers. So that's the key learning that I can say that I have for maintaining consistency.
If you compare, these your centers in tier one, two, and three cities,
Yeah.
the approach differ because every patient is different.
You're actually, the approach is the clinical protocols can be uniform, that this is the kind of treatment. But patient interaction must remain human and personalized. So I cannot dictate ki, bhai, how am I treating a patient in Delhi has to be this similar way. Language will be different, the treatment and the interaction with the patient would be different, the understanding is different, and telling that is the empathetical part of the treatment. So that cannot be systemized. So that interaction, which is very human and very personalized, that is only evolved over a period of time. So we like to keep having these training sessions with everyone to understand, ki, okay, how did you interact with that patient? It cannot be the treatment. Okay, okay, IVF karna hai. Okay, and this is the step, but how did you convey the IVF is required? How did you say what other treatments apart from IVF is required? Did they understand it and they understand the success and the failure part of it? Have you been able to explain ki bhai why this much amount is required and why no less or more? So many things have to be explained to the patient in their language in a way that they understand rather than just saying ki bhai okay watch this video and you'll be able to understand. It is not synonymous. It has to be empathetical and pure personalized for each and every patient at a different location.
So I'm going to dig a little more further into this point about approach because I've seen that healthcare is the only industry wherein those who are coming to you are not customers, they are lives, people who are not seeking a product or a service, they are seeking care. And that is why I think healthcare is probably the only industry where it is so critical to stand out without overselling. And so, what do you feel is the right way to approach a patient to communicate clearly and ethically, especially when patients are, weighing multiple options?
I think I said this before also that for us, it's never about the numbers. And as a responsible IVF chain, it's always been our core expertise that we have to sell realistic expectations. We have to set realistic expectations, you know.
Right.
It's not in our nature that we just push procedures. Every person that comes or every couple that comes to us, it's not about that IVF is the only required treatment. There is 5 to 6 other procedures that we can do before IVF or without IVF that we can try, and probably that is a solution for them. So our reputation that we have built is always in the point of that the health, it's not based on our marketing volume, but on our ethical outcomes. And if we have great ethical outcomes, we would have word of mouth and we would have our reputation built on that rather than we are the best marketing company in the world or we are the best marketing IVF chain in India. We do not look for that. So our focus has always been that we train our teams to educate about IVF and not to persuade about IVF. The focus is always on clarity, consent, and compassion. So every recommendation should be medically justified and not just IVF कराना है और बच्चा मिल जाएगा. Not like that.
I believe, it is very important that training part comes. I think a lot rides on that internal training, that how ultimately, because your team is the one who's facing the patient ultimately. And how they ultimately, the kind of trust and bond that they form with the patient, that is that could be that could make or break the relationship that you're forging with the patient. So there is another very important thing in this whole journey, and that is obviously the cost, which can be a real concern for so many families. So behind the scenes, what kind of operational decisions help you keep treatments both high quality and affordable?
Quality comes at a cost. There is no second thought about that. That scientifically we are same. I mean, IVF treatment across the world is almost more or less similar. So there is nothing different in our equipment compared to some other center equipment. There might be a minor changes here and there with a few advanced equipments, but the costing comes from the fact that how we are trying to educate the patient. You know, marketing again, as you can see, has there is no limit of the amount of marketing that you can do, and it can extend across all verticals. You know, auto rickshaws, TVs, newspapers, digital, YouTube, Facebook, Google. There's no end to marketing it. So our costs are not driven by the marketing outcomes, as I said, but are driven by the word of mouth outcomes. If we are able to give success to one patient, that is equivalent to say a lakh rupees of or 5 lakh rupees of marketing. Our focus has always been that let's not figure out on how to keep the cost low, but whatever price is necessary to give success to that patient or whatever is required, money should not become a barrier in terms of any other procedure that needs to be done within that treatment, any specific specialized media or consumable that needs to be used, or any other of those parameters that increases my chances of success even by 10-20%. If I can give that patient a successful pregnancy, I know I have saved my lakhs of rupees in marketing. So my focus has always been to give a patient treatment that maximizes our chances of success. And that cost is the amount of cost that I always look at, and no other cost in terms of marketing or any other thing.
When it comes to the entire journey of a patient, start from the point they come across, they Google and they find out, okay, there is a RISAA IVF center near me. So, is there a moment that you feel shapes their decision the most in the entire journey? What is the most crucial moment that helps you, that is like okay, this is the click. This is where I'll be able to forge a bond with the patient.
So the first consultation is almost as good as the last consultation. That first conversation is when whether a patient feels safe and understood determines that they are going coming to us and they're trusting us or not. So I always tell our counselors, our doctors that if we listen more than we speak in that moment, we're building that trust with the patient. And our focus has always been that first consultation where the patient opens up to us, puts their trust into us, and we build an empathetic relationship with them. If we have been able to do that, I think we have one half or 90% of the battle. So that moment is the key moment that helps the patient shape that decision. So for me, that first consultation is the most important.